Welcome back to the channel. I want to show you guys keying with 8-bit footage. You might have some problems when you're using media that has 8-bit. So if we go over to our edit page and we look under metadata, you can see these two clips here. Under bit depth it says 8, and same thing with this second clip here. Now they are 4K and they're H.265 on this one, and this clip is an H.264, also 4K. So the resolution's good, but the bit depth is limited to 8-bit. And that really makes a huge difference when you're trying to get a key. So here I took a node and just did a little bit of a balance here to give it some saturation. And I want to show you the difference between feeding the node this balanced color, and we're going to key on node number 3 here, versus this parallel node that's coming straight from the timeline and bypassing that balance into this mixer. So let's start off with node number 2, and we'll try to get a key off this. So let's disable the balance node here, and this is what node 2 is actually seeing when you're trying to key, and just go over some of the things that can happen to the image when you're keying, as well as explain the HSL qualifiers. So here we're going to try to grab this sky here and get a key. Say we wanted to just enhance it a little bit. We have a lot of gradation in here with all the sky and the clouds. So let's grab a key and we'll shift H to highlight. And you can swipe and take a sample of the sky here. You can see all this blocking. This is where the 8-bit footage just starts to fall apart. Now, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to show you there is some workarounds and some flexibility if you wanted to get a better key here. And you don't always have to go to the matte finesse here. You can start working with your HSL qualifiers down here. So hue is kind of just the sampling of the color, and it usually does a pretty good job. So if you were to move the center line here, that's just going to shift where the middle of the key is. That I find it does a pretty nice job. Now width is going to give you a wider sampling of that color range. So even with just the width here, you can see we're cleaning it up quite a bit because we're cutting into some of the clouds here. And then the soft is, if you watch the tail of these little triangles here on the hue, it'll kind of just roll it off a little bit. And then symmetry is similar, but it's more on one end, the one end or the other. So which side of the two sample points are you going to favor? So that helps quite a bit. Now we're going to go into saturation, and you can also grab these with your hand slider in between the two if you wanted to do it that way. You don't have to rely on these tools right here, but you can slide and see where is it picking up your image at the best, and you can start blending. So even that kind of helps quite a bit with the low soft. Now let's see what the high soft's doing. Not a lot going on there. And then we have our luminance area. So that's going to get into the brighter portions of the image. So you can ease it. Now we haven't even touched the matte finesse. Matte finesse is going to help us isolate quite a bit more too, but I wanted to show you how some of these tools interacted with each other on just going from where we were on the initial key to where we're at right now. All right, so now that we've got the basic key going, let's go ahead and experiment with the matte finesse tools. So we have pre-filter. You can see that kind of blurs the image a little bit. We have clean black. All these tools are basically going to be used in one way or another depending on what your image is. So if it's outdoors, if it's indoors, if it's dark, light, all that stuff makes a difference. Blur radius kind of softens the edges of your key. Same thing with the morph. Denoise cleans it up a little bit, and post filter kind of brings it down. And you can mess with the midpoint of morph operation goes as far as your shadows, midtones, and highlights. So you can slide them around and just see how it responds. But this is a lot of great flexibility in here to get your key to look correct. So now I'll shut the highlight off, and we'll move the gamma to really saturate the clouds here, or the sky rather. Now, if we toggle this on and off, you can see we're getting a whole bunch of reflection in the water down here, because that's all included in the key, the edge of this mountain range. So one thing you can do, like in a scene like this, is go to your power windows, and you could draw around the mountain range if you wanted to pencil out the entire range, or you could draw a box with some soft edge. You could also use the gradient tool here. So see, as we lift up we're going to exclude with a soft edge anything below the line, and anything above the line is going to get included in the key. And then of course you could track it through the shot. So now if we toggle this on and off, you can see we're just affecting the upper range of the sky. Okay, so that's a node prior to the balance. So let's disable that. We'll kick on this balance node, which gives us a lot more saturation, pretty extreme. So I might split it down a little bit. Like the greens are pretty sharp here. Now we're going to use a brand new node and do the same thing. But I want you to see how the key responds now that there's more color saturation and it has more to separate from these clouds. You can see a lot more detail here, and it's just opened that up quite a bit. So let's examine this image. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Maybe we could pick a section up here in the corner and Shift H to show the highlight. So we're still going to get that blocking because of the 8-bit footage. And we can add the key down here in the HSL qualifiers if we choose this plus on the dropper here, if we wanted to make another stroke. And then there's some feathering as well. So that'll get a little more like sampling of the color range, but we're still going to get that same breakup, but it's going to be a bit more defined right off the bat because of the saturation. So let's go down to our saturation chunk of HSL here, and we'll start finding a center point here and roll the softness. You can see that gets quite a bit of the clouds. And let's do the width. So it seems to have a more gentle of a roll off when you give it a little pre-grade prior to getting the key. Hue's kind of the same. And then let's go down to luminance here. So with 10-bit footage, this is going to lock onto these colors a lot more precisely. So you won't have to deal with all this crazy blocking. So don't think it's something that you're doing wrong. It's just how it's going to respond because of the bit depth. So now let's go to the Matte Finesse tools. And with these, it's always good to go too far and then pull it back. So if you went pretty extreme, you can start rolling it back. And to get more finesse out of these, if you hold down Option while you're scrolling, right now if you scroll, you can see it jumps quite a bit. But if we hold down Option, it goes by points. So you can really dial in each of these parameters how you like and get a little more granular with it. I like to go kind of extreme, see what it does, pull it back, and then choose like a happy medium. And that applies for any of these windows. Even on your inspector in the edit page, you can use the option to get a little more granular with any of the tools that you're dialing in. All right, so you can see, let's zoom back out and we'll pull the gamma on this just like we did on the last one. Let's go extreme. I can see a lot of like purpling up in this corner piece. And you can see really that's all we're really affecting is this upper portion and a little bit of the mountain range and a small amount of the water. Whereas the other key that we had down here, we enable that node again and look at the highlight. Before we did the window, which let's disable that, you could see there's so much more of the key that it was not recognizing as the sky just because of this pre-grade. So that's ways you can work with the 8-bit footage to do what you want it to do a little bit easier with the HSL curves, the finessing, and the window by adding this pre-grade. So you might want to do that before you even get a final look going. All right, thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the next one.